Hello, and welcome to Blythe Coffee Break, the podcast where queer culture, pop chaos, mythology, and a very strong cup of coffee all meet at the same table. I'm Jemma Blythe, your resident cultural overthinker, media romantic, and professional noticer of all things that are definitely not that deep until they absolutely are. Each episode will spill the hottest queer headlines, unpack the stories shaping how we love, live, and see ourselves on screen, and because we're nothing if not a little dramatic, trace those moments back to the myths and archetypes we've been rewriting for centuries. Think of this as your midweek catch-up with a friend who reads too much into TV storylines, quotes folklore at inappropriate times, and believes that queer media isn't just entertainment. It's cultural history in real time. So grab your drink of choice, better be a coffee, get comfortable, and let's take a little coffee break the Blythe way. Hello and welcome back to Blythe Coffee Break, Season 3, Episode 5. I cannot believe we are here, and today we are diving into Pride, Trans Plus Pride in London, and we are doing it all after International Trans Visibility Day. So join me as we unpack Pride, what Grassroots Pride means, and what commercial pride means too, whether that's corporate or however you approach pride, because pride should be for everyone, whether you are LGBTQ plus or an ally. So let's dive in, shall we, in today's hot sip. So Trans Plus Pride was formed back in 2019. And it was actually inspired by the Brighton Trans Pride that was established in protest to rising transphobia in the UK. So are Pride events becoming more political again? So let's start with something that's been a little bit impossible to ignore just lately. Pride for many is starting to feel different. Less like a party and more like a protest. And nowhere is that shift clearer than London Trans Pride. London Trans Pride is happening again this year in London, which I am so excited about. And why am I so excited about that? It's because everybody deserves visibility. Everybody deserves to be seen, heard, and treated like a human being. Because, and I am going to say this, trans rights are human rights. That's basic of the basic. Because they're human. Just like any of us. It's really that simple. And I used to go to pride marches and things like that. And I love a good pride march. Like, get me a banner, I'm there. Because at pride marches, people actually feel like they're a part of something. There's community spirit, there's family, there's fun, there's laughter. It's not all a protest. And if it is a protest, maybe we need to be asking ourselves why it still needs to be a protest. With rights being rolled back all around the world at the moment, it's really quite dark. So at one time, there used to be Grassroots Pride marches, which were mostly volunteer-led. And I feel like a good example of this is during... Did anybody watch the movie Pride when that first came out? Where LGSM joined the first, or one of the first, London Pride marches. That was incredible. But that was only incredible because back then it was a lot of people coming together for the same cause, and it was grassroots. And then flash forward, and we've come into an era now where corporates are joining the Pride marches and sponsoring a lot of the causes, which is brilliant. It's making them bigger. It's making them more noticeable. And along with that, you've got trans rights and visibility being equally as important. And with trans rights progressively slipping, which should not be happening in the 21st century. I mean, we are in the 21st century, for fuck's sake. Like, have a moment. Take a breath. And it's why visibility is so important right now. Because trans people have always existed. So, as I've already said, we've got corporate pride, which is big corporations, sponsorships. But where does that all go after Pride or Pride Month? Because, in my opinion, it seems to take a step back or vanish, which is strange. It shouldn't. And then you've got community pride, which is small groups and businesses. And quite a lot of those happen in the small towns and the smaller cities, at least here in the UK. So I think whether you approach Pride as a protest or not, it's open to interpretation. Or is it? Anyway. Let me take a break from that because, I mean, Coronation Street this week, come on. I love Gary Windass. I mean, if I was straight, fine. He's the ally. He's been absolutely brilliant tackling Theo this week in Coronation Street. And I cannot wait for tonight's episode. And while I am on the soap path, can we just set up a petition to stop the football interrupting the soaps? That might just be a good thing to do right now, considering we're talking about protests here. So yeah, that would be a good thing. But I love it. I absolutely love it. And then, of course, Bridgerton season 5. We have at last got a lesbian couple in Bridgerton with Francesca and Michaela. I am so excited for season 5. Although I can't progress without saying the amount of homophobia that I have seen online of people really going against this next season. Like, I get it. You wanted Eloise's season, and that is coming. I can't help but think that that's why they have put this season in like this, because it makes you want Eloise's season just that little bit more. And she is so stubborn when it comes to society and how society sees women, that this is just linking into her story so brilliantly. I can't wait. So, we're getting so much right now. And yeah, I guess if you don't like the sound of this next season of Bridgerton, like, step back and ask yourself, why? And if you are sitting it out, I hope you're ready for all the plot holes when you come back. Cheers. But yeah, so that's my brief take on everything so far. But you know what these episodes are. We take a deeper dive. So we are now going into the deep brew. So has Pride returned to its activist roots? Pride didn't start as a celebration. It started as resistance. And for a while, it felt like the resistance softened, kind of. I mean, from where I look at it, kind of in like from 2010 to kind of 2015, it felt like things were softening a little bit. And we got the rainbow flag and the progress flag that incorporated the trans colors and people of color and things like, which was gorgeous. And it's so vibrant. And let me know down below in the comments, wherever you watch or listen to this podcast, whether you feel comforted by seeing any of the pride flags or the pride colors. Because for me, it does bring a sense of comfort. And we got the sponsorships. And there was a real festival energy. Like, if you go to Brighton Pride, it's a real kind of festival energy in Brighton, which I love. I mean, there's been performances in Brighton Pride by Jessie J, Girls Aloud. Mariah Carey was there last year. I can't help but wonder how they made her feel comfortable at Brighton Pride with portaloos and red carpets. But there you go. It's all part of the wonderment and entertainment that is Pride. And some of that is shifting again, and it's becoming diversive again. But why? And I'm just going to go back now and tell you a little bit about Pride as a protest in a historical context. So for reference, we've got the Stonewall Riots that happened in June 1969. Now, these happened in New York, over in America, and this actually kick-started the Pride Parade across the world. And it started off as a police raid at the Stonewall Inn, and the LGBTQ plus community rioted for 6 days in protest. So the Stonewall Inn was owned by the mafia, but the poorest and the most marginalized drag queens and transgender community and effeminate young men used to go in there. And sadly, police raids were the norm in the 1960s. However, bars, clubs, pubs, that kind of thing were normally notified well in advance of a raid taking place. On this occasion, in the Stonewall Inn, they weren't notified. So they weren't aware of what was going to happen, which is why there's the Stonewall Inn Memorial in New York, and people get together to remember and just really thank the people standing up for them at that time. It's really powerful. So, as you can see, the origins of Pride have been rooted in resistance right from then. Right from 1969. And then even over in the UK, police were arresting LGBTQ plus people. I found a brilliant quote from Peter Tatchell on the BBC News website earlier today. And it said, right up until the 90s, the police were targeting our community, arresting people for consenting, same-sex behavior, even arresting same-sex couples for merely kissing at bus stops. And that's from the human rights campaigner, Peter Tatchell. And that could only have done one thing. It brought the community together to stand in solidarity for the first time, which is brilliant. It's hard to come to terms with what happened back then and to even get a gist of how they felt back then. I mean, to some extent, there's a little bit of shame there now still when people come out, and there shouldn't be. It's heartbreaking because they're just being them. They're just being human, like any one of us sharing this space. So they came together in solidarity for a cause. And that's really where Pride was born. Then, of course, now you've got corporate Pride, which is the big sponsorships, the big brands getting involved, car manufacturers, banks, insurance companies, hospitals even getting involved. And they are real big, large scale, purposeful events. And then there's Grassroots Pride, which is focused more in activism, community-led marches a lot of the time, and political messaging. So that's kind of the more current and the more protest type marches, I would say, which there's something really purposeful about that. The fact that they don't rely on sponsorships, they don't rely on the big brands, they don't rely on large-scale events, because it's community coming together, it's solidarity coming together. And then with this, you've got the visibility versus safety, the age-old conundrum. Because yes, visibility does need to happen, but it can come at a cost when it comes to safety. But why does visibility need to happen? It's because it increases awareness. It makes people aware that yes, we're here, we're queer, but still, we're human, just like you. We might love different people, we might appear different, but what is true is that we've got heart and soul and truth. But along with that, it also increases scrutiny. And scrutiny can be hard to deal with. It can be really hard to deal with. And then some people think, yeah, but why do you need to be visible if it comes at a risk of safety? I was 8 when I figured out who I was. 8. At that stage, there were no books at school, no TV programs, no movies. So I didn't have any propaganda as such. So when people say, you can't read that because it promotes LGBTQ+, does it apply when I think of 8-year-old me? No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. So I think Pride evolves on what the community needs most and where the community needs to be focused most, which is, there's something really warm about that. I think it's time for a little myth, don't you? So we've got visibility, transformation, and myth. So today I only seemed right to talk about the god Hermaphroditus. No, I'm not talking about tonsillitis. Sounds similar, very different. But Hermaphroditus is one of the winged love gods called Erotes at the time. And he was the two-sex son of Hermes and Aphrodite. And he symbolized the unity of both men and women sexes. And it just brings to the fore how in mythology visibility has always been complicated. And if you take Hermaphroditus, he's a figure embodying both masculine and feminine traits. And their story isn't just about identity. It's about how society reacts to different. And it's interesting even now how myth can reflect cultural discomfort with non-binary identities. Now, it was interesting. And I'll let you into a little bit of the research this week. Because when I was researching Hermaphroditus, a lot of the pronouns that we used were he, him. And looking back, I'm wondering why. And it's interesting. Is it just the way that Google is comfortable with phrasing that? Because to me, it would have been they or them, not he, him. It's interesting. Is that a reflection of still the discomfort around non-binary identities? And it's interesting how visibility often leads to both fascination and fear. It's natural to fear the unknown, right? But what's wrong with doing a little bit more research? So then it's not unknown anymore. It's just common knowledge and it's not frightening. And surely if it meant you not upsetting anybody What's wrong with using the right pronouns for a person? And it's a shame that there is discomfort with non-binary identities because they're still a person. They're still human. Just like me, just like you. It's different. And Hermaphroditus was still a winged love god at the end of the day, just like Cupid. So it's interesting. It's so interesting how terms that we think are brand new have always been there throughout history, throughout myths, throughout legends. So if I want to find out anything in the future, I might turn to the encyclopedia or Google. Maybe not Google. Okay, then. So this week's community spill was interesting. It took me on a path of public and community reactions to pride shifts and debates about what pride should be, generational differences in perspective, and online discourse around protest versus celebration. So many, if you look at online conversations, there's often a clear divide, about what pride should be, whether it should be a protest, whether it should be joy, whether it should be a party. Can't it be all those things? Why can't it shift and change and move and be flexible, fluid, fun? It's a shame that there's a debate about what pride should be these days. Pride to me has always been about visibility and about community coming together for one cause. And that's to bring everybody together and show that there is no threat at all. And then, of course, you get the generational differences in perspective and people asking, well, there isn't a straight pride. Like, hello, you're in books, magazines, TV shows, films, music, all the time. And when it comes to children coming out, it's an isolating process, especially if you haven't got any other LGBT people around you, even adults or teachers or characters in films and things like that. It's so difficult when you haven't got anybody there to relate to. And as a straight person, like, you should feel grateful that you haven't had to have a pride, that your rights were always there, always. You weren't judged for loving who you wanted to love and who you fell in love with. You weren't judged for that. Let us have our time. It's a month, a day. In retrospective, is that a lot? Really? And then, like, the online discourse around protest versus celebration. It can shift and change and move and shift and all that good stuff. I think pride is open to interpretation. Some people view it as a protest, some people view it as a celebration. But as long as we're all standing together, shoulder to shoulder, problem. But it's just interesting how social media deepens these discussions and enlightens people as to what's actually going on at the moment. It's so good that people have platforms to be able to voice their opinions, not always in an awful way, but as in a helpful way, a way in which other people can understand. So yeah, that was the community spell this week. And I love looking at discussions online. It's brilliant. So without further ado, let's head into a Blythe brewed take. So I don't think pride has changed. I really don't. I think the context around it might have, because pride has always been both things at once: joy and resistance, celebration and protection. And maybe the reason it feels more political now is because it needs to be. Pride isn't about becoming political again. It never stopped being political. And there's something really powerful in that. So, my future forecast. I don't know why I did that. Crystal ball, no idea. Anyway, I think if this continues, that we're going to see pride evolving even further. More grassroots movement, more focused activism, and more intersectional and generational conversations, which I believe is a really exciting thing. and a great thing to look forward to. And I think we're going to see rise of smaller, more local Pride events, and probably as like linking to that, more activism focused marches and an increased focus on trans visibility so that no one feels left out. Everyone is part of the same family. And with that, that is it for me this week. And I hope you have enjoyed this coffee break. As always, please drop your coffee order in the comments, or you can always email me with a hot sip suggestion for a future episode using the email address lifewithjemmablythe@gmail.com. I will leave everything in the description below. And if you are here and you've made it all the way to the end, please leave me that 5-star review. And don't forget to subscribe so then you never miss an episode of Blythe Coffee Break. But until next Wednesday, cheers, and I'll see you then. Bye.